Most people believe that diabetes can only be caught with a blood test. You go to your doctor, the lab work comes back, and that's when you find out. And I completely understand why people think that. For years, that's what most of my patients believe too. But here's what I see confirmed in my office every single week. Your body starts warning you about high blood sugar long before any lab result ever would. And the very first place it speaks up, right here, your feet. I've been practicing medicine for over 20 years, and in that time I've watched too many patients walk into my office, or worse, into an emergency room, with every warning sign already on their feet. Signs that had been there for months, sometimes years, and nobody knew what they were looking at. Today, that changes. I'm going to show you 9 signs that are already on millions of feet right now. For each one, I'll tell you what most people assume it is, what's actually happening inside your body, and one simple daily habit that can protect you. Let's get into it. Before we get into the 9 signs, I want to take just a moment to explain why the feet. Because this is the question I get asked most often, and the answer matters. Your feet are the furthest point from your heart in your entire body. They sit at the very end of your longest blood vessels and your longest nerve pathways. So when something goes wrong with circulation or with nerve function, which is exactly what elevated blood sugar causes, your feet feel it first. They are the early warning system your body built in, long before your doctor's lab results catch up. And here is something that stopped me cold when I first read it. The American Diabetes Association estimates that 1 in 5 Americans living with diabetes right now has no idea they have it. That's over 8 million people going about their daily lives, and the damage is already happening, quietly, consistently, to their nerves, their kidneys, their vision, and yes, their feet. Just last month, I sat with a patient, 67 years old, retired, active lifestyle, came in feeling perfectly fine for a routine visit. Before I ordered a single lab test, I asked him about his feet. He told me his feet had felt a little numb for a while, but he figured it was just age catching up with him. He had 4 of the 9 signs I'm about to show you. His fasting blood sugar came back at 214. He had been diabetic for over 2 years without knowing it. That story is not unusual. I hear versions of it constantly. And that is exactly why we're here today. So let's go through these signs one by one, starting with the one almost every patient has already experienced and explained away. Sign number 1. And this is the one I hear about more than any other in my office. Tingling. Numbness. That pins and needles feeling in the feet. Almost every patient who mentions this to me has already explained it away before they even finish the sentence. My foot just falls asleep sometimes. I was sitting with my legs crossed. I was in the car too long. And yes, that happens to everyone occasionally. Position-related numbness is completely normal. But here's the question I always ask. Is this happening regularly, without any clear reason? Because if the answer is yes, we need to have a very different conversation. Frequent, recurring numbness, or tingling in the feet, what we call peripheral neuropathy, is one of the earliest signs that blood sugar has been elevated for some time. Here's what's actually happening inside your body. The excess sugar in your bloodstream begins attacking the outer protective layer of your nerves. It's a slow process, which is precisely why most people miss it entirely. I explain it to my patients this way. Think of your nerves like electrical wires running from your brain all the way down to your feet. Every wire has a protective coating around it. That coating is what allows the signal to travel cleanly. When blood sugar stays elevated over time, it acts like a slow acid eating through that coating. The wire still functions for a while, but the signals start getting distorted, fuzzy, unreliable, and that fuzziness is the tingling you feel in your feet. According to the American Diabetes Association, peripheral neuropathy affects nearly half of all people living with diabetes. It is the single most common complication, and it almost always begins in the feet, which means right now, tens of millions of Americans are experiencing this exact tingling and writing it off as nothing. My daily recommendation for this one, a 20 to 30-minute walk every single day, not a jog, just a purposeful walk. Consistent movement is the single best thing you can do to maintain blood flow to your feet and protect those nerve endings, and start reducing added sugar in your diet, not next month, today. Sign number 2, and this is the one my patients consistently describe as the most distressing, because it doesn't show up during the day when there are things to keep your mind busy. It shows up at night, when the house is quiet, when you're lying in bed trying to sleep, and there is nothing to distract you from it. A lot of people chalk this up to being on their feet all day, the summer heat, tired legs, and sometimes, yes, that is exactly what it is. But when a patient tells me their feet feel like they are on fire, especially at night, especially when they're lying still, I take that very seriously. Burning in the soles of the feet, particularly at night, is a classic early warning sign of diabetic neuropathy, and here is what's actually happening. The nerves in your feet have been damaged by prolonged exposure to elevated blood sugar, and damaged nerves don't always go quiet. Sometimes they become overactive. They begin firing incorrect signals, sending a heat message to your brain, even though nothing hot is anywhere near your foot. The nerves are misfiring. Your brain receives the alarm, but the source isn't external. It's coming from inside damaged nerve tissue. I explain it to patients this way. Imagine a fire alarm with a faulty sensor. The building is not on fire, but the alarm is screaming anyway, because the sensor itself is broken. Your nervous system is doing exactly the same thing. The burning is completely real. The pain is genuine, but its origin is nerve dysfunction, not heat, not injury. Research published in the journal Diabetes Care found that burning foot pain is one of the first symptoms reported by patients who are later diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, often appearing 1 to 3 years before the formal diagnosis is ever made. 2 habits I recommend here. First, drink at least 8 glasses of water every day. Proper hydration supports your kidneys in flushing excess glucose and helps maintain nerve tissue. Second, add more fiber to every meal: vegetables, legumes, oats. Fiber slows the absorption of sugar into your bloodstream, which is exactly what those struggling nerves need. Sign number 3, and this is the one where I almost always get a laugh, followed by a very serious conversation. When I bring this up, patients smile and say things like, "Doctor, my feet have been cold my whole life. My wife has been stealing the electric blanket every winter for 30 years. And I laugh with them. I genuinely do. But then I ask a different question. Are your feet cold in July? Are they cold under 3 blankets when the rest of your body feels perfectly warm? Because that is when I become concerned. Cold feet that persist regardless of the temperature around you, cold in summer, cold under heavy covers, cold even when the rest of your body is warm, are a strong indicator of seriously compromised blood circulation in the lower extremities. Here is what is happening. Your blood vessels have narrowed or stiffened to the point where warm, oxygenated blood simply cannot reach the tips of your feet in sufficient volume. Think of your circulatory system like a heating system running pipes to every room in your house. When those pipes narrow from years of blood sugar damage, the heat stops making it to the far end of the building. The room at the end of the hall stays cold, no matter how hard the furnace is working. That is not a thermostat problem. That is a pipe problem. The American Heart Association identifies peripheral artery disease, caused by exactly this kind of blood vessel narrowing, as affecting over 8 million Americans, with diabetes being the single largest contributing risk factor, and persistently cold feet are one of its earliest and most consistent symptoms. The best daily habit for this one is a 30-minute brisk walk. Not a stroll. A purposeful, arm-swinging walk that forces circulation down into your feet and lower legs. If 30 minutes feels like too much right now, start with 10. The distance matters far less than the consistency. Start today. Sign number 4, and I need you to pay very close attention here, because this is the one that stops being uncomfortable and starts becoming genuinely dangerous. This is the sign that sends the most patients to the emergency room. They come in and say something like, "I had a small blister from my shoe about 3 weeks ago. It still hasn't closed up." They waited. They assumed it would heal on its own, and most small wounds do, but not when blood sugar is consistently elevated. When blood sugar stays high over time, your body gradually loses its ability to heal efficiently. The blood vessels throughout your body, including the tiny ones running through your feet, begin to narrow and stiffen. And that means oxygen, white blood cells, and the nutrients your tissue needs to repair itself simply cannot reach the wound quickly enough. The wound sits there, open, vulnerable, slow to close. I explain it to patients this way. Imagine trying to water your garden, but your hose has a serious kink in it. The water exists, the pressure is there, but it is not getting where it needs to go. That is exactly what high blood sugar does to circulation in your feet. The healing ingredients are in your blood. They just cannot reach the wound. And an open wound that will not close is an infection waiting to happen. In a foot with already compromised circulation, that infection can escalate with frightening speed. The Centers for Disease Control reports that diabetic foot ulcers are the leading cause of non-traumatic lower limb amputations in the United States, over 100,000 every single year, and almost all of them began as a small wound that was ignored or dismissed. Here is the daily habit I recommend. After your bath or shower tonight, sit down in good light and look carefully at both feet. Look between every toe. Look at your heels. Look at the soles. If you find any cut, blister, or broken skin, clean it with mild soap and water, apply an antiseptic, and cover it. And if it has not noticeably improved within 48 hours, call your doctor. Not next week, 48 hours. Sign number 5. And this one is hiding in plain sight. Most people walk past it every single day without recognizing what they're actually looking at. It's visible. It has been there for a while, and almost nobody connects it to blood sugar. Patients point to their ankles and say things like, "I think it's just sun damage," or "I've always had darker skin there." And that may be perfectly true, but there is a specific pattern of discoloration, particularly around the ankles and lower legs, that I look for very carefully when I'm assessing blood sugar risk. Look right here. When circulation is impaired by elevated blood sugar, the lower legs and feet stop receiving adequate, fresh, oxygenated blood. The skin responds to that deprivation by changing color. You may notice a deepening darkness, a deep reddish tone, or in more advanced cases, even a faint bluish tint around the ankles. This is your skin sending a visible distress signal, telling you that blood flow to that region is not what it should be. In some patients, the skin in those areas also becomes noticeably thinner and more fragile. Another sign that the tissue is not being properly nourished. I explain it this way. Think of your blood as a delivery truck carrying oxygen and nutrients to every part of your body. Your feet sit at the very end of the longest delivery route in your body, further from your heart than anywhere else. When the roads narrow because of damaged blood vessels, the deliveries stop arriving on time. The skin, starved of fresh oxygen, changes color. It is a distress signal you can see with your own eyes, if you know what you are looking for. A study published in the Journal of the American Academy of Dermatology found that these skin changes are detectable on average 18 months before a formal diabetes diagnosis is made. The daily habit here is simple. 5 minutes every morning of ankle circles, toe raises, and gentle calf stretches. Even that small amount of targeted movement gets blood flowing into your feet and lower legs. And if mobility is limited, elevating your feet slightly while you sit can make a meaningful difference on its own. Sign number 6, and this one surprises my patients the most because it looks completely harmless. In fact, most people have been living with it for years and never once thought to connect it to blood sugar. My heels crack every winter. It's just dry skin. It's always been that way. I hear this constantly. And yes, dry, cracked heels are extremely common, especially as we get older. But when your heels are cracking badly in the middle of summer, or when you have been applying moisturizer faithfully every single day and nothing seems to help no matter how much you use, that is a completely different situation. Here is what is actually going on. Diabetes affects what are called the autonomic nerves, the ones that quietly control automatic functions your body handles without any conscious effort from you. One of those functions is regulating moisture and perspiration in the skin. When these nerves are damaged by chronically elevated blood sugar, The sweat glands in your feet gradually stop functioning properly. Your feet lose their natural moisture from the inside out. And no amount of lotion addresses the root cause, because the root cause is not on the surface of your skin. It is in your nervous system. I explain it to patients this way. Think of your skin like a wall that needs to stay sealed and intact. When the autonomic nerves are damaged, it is like the mortar between the bricks begins to crumble. Cracks appear, and those cracks in the skin of your feet are not a cosmetic inconvenience. They are open entry points for bacteria and infection. In a foot with already poor circulation, that infection can become very serious, very quickly. I have sat with patients who had been applying lotion to their cracked heels for 2 years with zero improvement. That is not a skin problem. That is a nerve problem. The American Podiatric Medical Association identifies chronic treatment-resistant heel cracking as a significant indicator of autonomic neuropathy in older adults, a condition directly linked to long-term elevated blood sugar. The daily habit here: moisturize your feet every single night before bed. A good thick lotion or pure coconut oil applied thoroughly to the sole and heel. But, and this is important, never apply moisturizer between your toes. That trapped moisture creates the perfect environment for fungal infection. And drink 8 glasses of water daily. Your skin needs hydration from the inside just as much as from the outside. Sign number 7. And this one is more serious than most people realize, because it is not just telling you something about your feet. It is telling you something about your kidneys at the same time. Almost everyone I've seen with this tells me the same thing. I stand on my feet all day at work. Or I sit at a desk for hours. Some swelling at the end of the day is normal for me. And I want to be completely clear. Occasional activity-related swelling is normal. It happens to most people. But if your feet and ankles are consistently swollen, if you are pressing your finger into the skin and the indentation stays there for several seconds, and if you are pulling off your socks every evening to find deep marks pressed into your skin, that changes the picture entirely. Here is the connection most people don't know about. High blood sugar, sustained over time, begins to damage the kidneys, and your kidneys are responsible for controlling your body's fluid balance. When kidney function is impaired by years of elevated glucose, fluid begins to accumulate, and gravity pulls it to the lowest point in your body: your feet, your ankles. I explain it this way. Think of your kidneys as the filtration plant for your entire body. Every drop of blood passes through them to be cleaned and balanced. When high blood sugar damages those filters, the system backs up. Excess fluid has nowhere to go except downward. It pools in your ankles. You press your finger into the swollen area and the indentation remains. That is called pitting edema, and it is not something to observe and wait on. The National Kidney Foundation reports that diabetic kidney disease affects approximately 1 in 3 adults with diabetes, and lower extremity swelling is frequently the first visible sign that kidney function is being compromised. 2 habits I recommend here. When you rest, elevate your feet above the level of your heart. Even a few inches on a pillow is enough to help pull that accumulated fluid back toward the center of your body, and reduce your sodium intake. Salt causes your body to retain water, which makes swelling significantly worse. Read labels carefully. Many canned and processed foods contain far more sodium than most people realize, and if the swelling is new, persistent, or getting worse, please bring it up with your doctor at your very next visit. Sign number 8. And this is the one I see most often misdiagnosed. By the time patients find out what it actually is, they have frequently been living with it for years, and masking it with medication that was never going to fix it. What I hear over and over again goes something like this. I've been taking ibuprofen for the foot pain for months now. I figured it was arthritis, maybe an old sports injury flaring back up. And I hear this with complete understanding, because sometimes that is exactly right. Arthritis is real. Old injuries are real. But sometimes the pain has an entirely different origin, one that ibuprofen will never touch. When nerves are damaged by chronic high blood sugar, they do not always go quiet. Sometimes they become hyperactive. Instead of producing numbness, They begin firing intense, random signals, and your brain interprets those signals as severe pain. Patients describe it as stabbing, an electric shock through the foot, a hot needle. It happens most often at night when there are no other sensory inputs competing for your brain's attention. I explain it this way. Think of a car alarm that got damaged in a minor fender bender. Every few minutes it starts screaming, for no reason. Nobody is breaking into the car. The alarm is simply broken. It is sending false signals because the sensor itself is damaged. That is exactly what a damaged nerve does. It sends alarm signals to your brain when nothing is actually happening to your foot. The pain is completely real. It is not imagined. But its source is nerve dysfunction, not injury, not inflammation, not arthritis. And taking ibuprofen does not repair a damaged nerve. What it does is mask a signal your body is desperately trying to send you, and masking that signal is the last thing you want to do when your nerves are asking for help. The daily habit I recommend for this one: 5 minutes of gentle foot and ankle movement every morning before you get out of bed. Flex your feet. Circle your ankles slowly. Pull your toes back gently toward your shin. Get blood moving before you put any weight on your feet. And every night before bed, give your feet a gentle 3-minute massage. Light, circular strokes along the sole and up toward the ankle. Your nerves will respond to that attention over time. And now we arrive at sign number 9. This is the one almost nobody ever talks about. I have never seen it covered in a patient brochure. Most people walk right past it every single day, including, honestly, many doctors who are not specifically looking for it. I almost never have patients bring this one up themselves. They don't notice it. But during a foot exam, when I look carefully at the lower legs and the tops of the feet, sometimes there is a visible absence of hair in those areas. The skin is smooth where it should not be. And when I point it out, the patient looks down and says, I never noticed that. That is exactly the problem. It is quiet, easy to overlook, but it matters significantly. Hair follicles require a steady, consistent supply of blood and oxygen to function. When circulation is meaningfully impaired by long-standing elevated blood sugar, the follicles in your feet and lower legs gradually stop receiving what they need. Over time, sometimes over many years, they stop producing hair entirely. That hair loss is a visible marker of blood vessel damage that has been silently progressing, often for far longer than the patient realizes. I explain it to patients this way. Think of hair follicles like small plants in a garden. When the irrigation pipe gradually narrows or partially blocks, the plants don't die immediately. They just slowly stop growing. The absence of growth is your body sending you a message about the health of your blood vessels, a message you can see with your own eyes every time you look at your legs, if you know what you are looking for. Here is what I want you to do right after this video ends. Sit down, roll up your pant legs, and look at your lower legs and the tops of your feet. Compare the hair density there to the hair on the rest of your leg. If the hair is significantly thinner in those areas or absent entirely, schedule a blood glucose test this week, not this month. This week, it costs approximately $12 at any certified lab and is covered by Medicare for most of you. $12. That is what early detection costs. I want to leave you with something I say to patients regularly because I think it is worth repeating here. Your body is not working against you. It never has been. Every sign we talked about today, the tingling, the burning, the cold feet, the slow healing, the skin changes, the cracking, the swelling, the pain, the missing hair, every single one of those is your body trying to communicate with you, trying to get your attention before the situation becomes harder to manage. The problem was never that the signals weren't there. The problem was that nobody explained what they meant. That is what today was about. So here is my challenge to you. Starting tonight, spend 30 seconds looking at your feet before bed. Make it a habit. It costs you nothing. And if you see or feel anything from today's list, make that appointment this week. Your future self will be grateful you did. If you found this useful, and I genuinely hope you did, please share this video on Facebook right now. Tag a family member, a friend, a neighbor, someone you care about who should see this. You may be giving them something they did not know they needed. And if you want more conversations like this one, practical, honest health information that I talk about with my patients every day, things most people never hear outside a doctor's office. Subscribe to this channel. I post a new video every single week. Bring someone you love along with you. Stay aware, stay proactive, and please take care of those feet. See you in the next one.